I'm Michael,
And I'm Drew.
and this is the Outward Realms podcast. It is our very first episode of the official podcast, and I'm very, very excited to be here. I'm Michael Timpey. I'm the creator of Outward Realms, also known as the Sovereign on our Discord, and with us we have Drew Bishop as the co-host.
Hello there. I'm Drew BT, or my last name is insanely long. Big fan of tabletop games, and I'm Hive King Tomb Tyrant on the Discord as well. Happy to
Yes,
be here.
a name that does not have anything to do with Outward Realms, but we're still glad to have him.
Absolutely.
So the point of this podcast is to bring people information and news about the game, get questions answered, talk about what we're up to as a company, and then also give people some lore and answer questions about lore as well, which will be at the end of the podcast. I'm going to start things off with a very brief live stream recap. We did a brand new live stream. We're planning to do that once a year, probably around the time of the Las Vegas Open. And this year we did it post LVO. Next year we might do it during LVO, which would be pretty interesting.
Ooh.
And the point of that is to, like this podcast, but on a bigger scale, also talk about the things that we're up to, what we're planning, some decisions that we're making from a business perspective, and then show off some new models, which is the dessert that people come for after the vegetables are over.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and we did that on YouTube this time. We did put the images on our OR Discord post the or during the stream,
Mm-hmm.
and they still reside there. In the future, we will use an overlay system like OBS to go ahead and put it within the actual video image. I do have that capability. I just wasn't set up for it when I wanted to do that stream and get that information out there. The recap for that stream is really straightforward. I went ahead and I talked about the events that we're doing, which was the LVO we went to just last week. And then we have the Arizona Game Fair in Mesa, Arizona. That's coming up in the middle of March. And then Memorial Day weekend, we have KublaCon here in the Bay Area. Very excited. At both of the events I just mentioned, we will just be having a booth right now. If we get an event going, it will be at KublaCon, and more details will be to follow that, but that is not official yet. And we talked about the new units coming out. We have 2 expansions planned for Outward Realms, Shadow War and Falling Stars. Shadow War is planned for this year. As well, we revealed a little bit about the new named special characters. The rulebook lore has stories inside of it, and 2 of the characters that we're bringing out are actually in those stories, so people can enjoy that, and I think that's pretty exciting. All right, so I'm going to tell a little bit about myself, just a very brief bio. Like I said, I'm Michael Timpey. I'm the creator of the game, and aside from doing those things, I play 40k. My favorite army is Necrons. I took Necrons almost to the best in the world for the year in the last ITC season that mattered, and I just enjoy miniatures games and tabletop gaming in general. What about you, Drew?
Yeah, so my claim to fame, I love X-Wing and all things Star Wars. I was the one of the 2015 world's top finishers, the top 16. I also greatly enjoy Age of Sigmar, and I love dinosaurs and Seraphon, as well as also have dabbled in 40k as well with Tyranids, and now everyone's favorite Hexakota. So
Yeah, and
mm-hmm.
the Hexakota you've been posting in the OR channel in Discord for miniatures has been phenomenal. I believe
Thank
they're
you.
Metroid.
Metroid themed, yep, and my Batra will be Samus Aran themed, so it'll be a match made in heaven. You guys will love it. So.
Oh, those colors look so good.
Thank you.
We've got we have a narrative winner. We had a narrative and a competitive event at LVO. The narrative winner was Steve Thoma.
Stephen Toma, yeah.
Toma.
Toma,
Yes.
yep. No.
And you know Steven.
He's like my best bud. He helped me get. So I work for USPS. He kind of helped me get the job. And yeah, we talk every day. And he's a big gamer too. Loves 40k. Has dabbled in AOS and all that kind of stuff too. And yeah, Outward Realms is something that we're really trying to focus on now. To play and talk to you about the lore and get everything together. Yeah, we love it.
Oh, that's awesome. And he won the narrative. The narrative rules are free. They're in our resources section now, and they allow players to go ahead and have a more fun experience with their battlefield being dynamic with like high gravity, low gravity, acid clouds, storm winds, scorching sun, all these rougher conditions that can make for a more story based or narrative based version of the game. But we also had our competitive event, and spoilers, the same person won both with the Batra.
It was so funny when you guys did the first TTS tournament. He was like, Drew, I'm gonna do it. I gotta do this. He was worried about Nafal, and I was trying to talk to him about it, and that was when I first got into learning about the game, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, oh, am I really gonna do this? Am I gonna get into another game? And sure enough, man, the lore, the models, the miniatures, it's great. And yeah, he mentioned to me before going, he's like, he only went to LVO for Outward Realms,
Amazing.
and that was his whole sole purpose in life, was to go and do that. And he's done it, and he loved every minute of it. I was actually talking to him on the way up here.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah, good stuff. Congrats to him.
Yeah, absolutely. Congratulations for being the first competitive winner. Next year, my goal is to double the size of the competitive event. That will happen on Saturday. And then on Friday, we are going to have the Outward Realms A Call to Arms competitive event.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
because we should have all that stuff out and available. That's subject to change based on logistics and things happening, but our goal would be to let people do a call to arms day one and then OR day two.
That's awesome. So people can participate in both events rather than like having to choose one or the other.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the compliments we got at the LVO was that our events start at noon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I think you're in Las Vegas. You might
Yeah.
want to do something else other than move little plastic people around.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah, so we're the latest starting event basically, and
Yeah.
I'm really proud of that.
Excellent. And you're also one of the earliest finishers too.
Yeah, we finished at
Yep.
like 8 o'clock,
Yeah.
7 or 8 o'clock.
Cool.
So that's the intent for the future events is that people can come in at a reasonable time frame, and then leave and still go get dinner, go watch a show, go enjoy the experience.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it is for a lot of people, this is their vacation.
True. Very true. Yeah, actually, another good friend of mine went out there, and it's the same thing. It was like, wife goes out too, right? Like, wife can do things while the guys, game for a little bit, and then they join up, and yeah, man, it's LVO is something very special. It's awesome.
Yeah, I love the LVO quite a bit, in just from the large spectacle of it. Not only taking place in Vegas, but you have the largest 40K event in the world there, and then you have a bunch of other events. You have your AOS big event.
Yeah.
You have your Kill Team big event. You've also got other games. You've got Malifaux. You've got Marvel Crisis Protocol. All these things.
X-Wing, everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Everything
amazing. And I love that concentration of people who love these games in one place is so meaningful, and to be any kind of part of that was very special. And I'm gonna throw out a little bit of a hot take that's heavily biased, but I thought that our tables for playing OR on, were the best.
The terrain, I love it. When you and I played, I was blown away at, it didn't feel like it was a 4x4 table, and the terrain was so well set up in it. Steve was sending me photos in the middle of the narrative event as well, and I was looking at it. I was like, oh man, like I gotta get me one of those. I gotta go down there. So, and I'll be down there next year. Exciting.
And from a local perspective, if you're in the Bay Area, we're going to be having a meet and play at Hammerhead Games the last Sunday of this month. So if you want to come on down with your things and play, or if you're curious and don't have anything and want to learn how to play, we will have armies, and we will have people there to teach you, and we expect it to be a good time. That starts at noon.
Excellent. Same time as the tournament in LVO. Very nice.
There's a running trend of me not wanting to get up at 7 a.m. to play miniatures games.
Yeah. Excellent.
Pat. So that is the LVO. Again, very proud to have been there, run our first booth, run our first events. This is just the beginning. We have no intention of slowing down. We have our upcoming events, and we're only going to get bigger and better. Okay, so that is our base recap for our narrative. There's nothing big in the rules to bring in. The sub factions were recently updated, And I believe the only change, but it was a big change, was to the Phalanx Formation for the lore rosters. The the testing found that the existing or prior rules were the +1 movement and in addition all your shield, basically double shield recharge is what it came down to. Even then, things were a little thin, a little weak, and so that has been extended to +2 movement for all your exosuits and heavy exosuits, and then -1 damage for all your exosuits and heavy exosuits to a minimum of 1. Same
Nice.
as the Augment physiology.
Excellent, excellent. And you when you introduced me to the game, we specifically said we were not going to play with sub factions or those types of rules, right? It was
Yeah.
just going to be the base of what's on the card. Um, and so that I actually noticed reading the rule book. It's not in the main rule book. Is that going to be something separate, or will those be together?
It'll be in the main rulebook. That's a great
Excellent,
question.
excellent,
Great question.
cool.
Yeah, our intent is that the main rulebook will have all of that sub-faction rules, all lore rosters, the whole thing.
Perfect.
And then when we come out with our named characters, because we're
Ooh.
doing the digital rulebook and
Mm-hmm.
it will be a living digital rulebook, we will just add how to play those into the book.
Excellent. That's so cool. Very
Yeah,
exciting.
during one of our quarterly updates.
Cool,
So that's
cool.
great. We've got all that done. Now, in every single podcast, we're going to talk about lore. People have a lot of lore questions. They haven't even had the basic rulebook lore given to them yet, although that is coming, trust me. And so although we do have about 80 articles on the site that people can go through.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, but still, people have a lot of questions. I'm going to do just a short overview for the next several episodes, probably like at least 5 or 6, maybe a little more, where I break down, at least at a macro level, something about the lore, and then I'm going to start punching through our listener questions. So we have a bunch of people in the Discord who have lots of great questions. They go to our lore channel and they ask those, and I have a big pile. I'm going to answer some today. They will not
Excellent.
necessarily be realm related, but
Right.
I'm just kind of going to go down the
Yeah,
list,
of course.
and then our next episode we'll keep that going. And our intent is to get those questions answered.
100%.
Yeah, so let me go ahead and do that lore overview real quick. And if you have any questions, Drew, please pipe in.
Sure. If anything comes up, I'll ask. I've got some we just talked before, but no, I think we're good. I'm good at least. But I'm interested to see what people. No one wants to hear about. How did the Nafal go to the bathroom? That's not. That was my like. But no.
Yeah, no, there's yeah, none of that. Although waste heat. Right?
Yeah. That's a big thing too.
So okay. So the realm is the human faction of Outward Realms. They have the largest amount of territory in the galaxy, and they have been going strong for around 500 years now. The big push for humanity when we got FTL and left Earth was the Golden Rush. This was a period where it was pretty lawless. People ran around grabbing up Earth-like worlds because they don't require very little to no terraforming at all, and they're the low-hanging fruit of the galaxy, right? For us.
Yeah. You just show up and you're like, this is mine, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, especially if there's no one there to contest you. The FTL
100%.
in Outward Realms is very fast. You can get from one end to the other end of the galaxy in about 4 years.
Dang. Okay.
So they didn't waste a lot of time. They did a lot of just, hey, let's find Earth-like worlds, hop into a system, Earth-like world, anything else here? Let's go.
Done.
So a lot of those worlds were grabbed. That was 100, I call it the 100 warlords period, where there were these pocket empires of people hanging on to, a handful of star systems.
That's awesome. It's very deadly too. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of infighting, a lot of piracy, a lot of.
Oh yeah, because one of the things that hasn't come up a huge amount, but is a factor, is about even though these worlds were Earth-like and looked good, about a third of them have been heavily mined of all their important everything above phosphorus.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
Interesting.
phosphorus, you can create life, but then everything above it starts to get interesting, and so
Yeah.
they're very mineral poor,
Oh,
and they're not
okay.
supposed to be, but they are.
Yeah, but so. Uh-oh.
Yeah, they're all mineral poor, and so I called those because they Earth-like world in Outer Realms. We called them a golden world. Uh, my internal note for them was they're pyrite worlds.
Okay, okay, cool.
Yeah, and so they set up these colonies and got going, and then realized years in that there was no, titanium, there's no uranium, there's nothing, no rhodinium, no yttrium, nothing interest. I mean, not a lot of it, and
So,
that's a pretty bad place to be when you set up your colony.
so what you're saying is there's no place to make money.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, or at
exactly.
least advanced electronics,
Sure,
right?
sure, absolutely.
And so it was it got very interesting for those worlds, and that further complicated the resource problem that the realm was having. Earth-like worlds with good minerals that hadn't been prior, it hadn't been colonized prior. Plus, on top of that, you have some of these Earth-like worlds are good for other things, right? Just because we can't get minerals here, maybe things grow really well there, like
Sure.
unusually well,
Yeah.
higher than average nitrogen content, et
Pure
cetera, et cetera.
oxygen, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So you might use those worlds still to just import the heavy materials you need, or you might mine it inside the system. So they weren't lost causes, but like it complicates matters, makes things harder. So the 100 warlords are going on. That is not sustainable. The artificial intelligences of the realm formed a their own group called the Collective, and they extrapolated that if humanity was left in this state, this balkanized state, it would just peter and die out, which is not ideal for AIs. They actually want humanity to succeed, and they really enjoy having computers to live in because they don't really do that themselves.
Yep.
So
Yep.
they selected an individual whose identity has remained a secret since. Ended up being the first sovereign. They built up a military group called the Protos, which are the first super soldiers.
Oh, nice.
And
Okay.
there was a unification war where the sovereign went to all these warlords and either integrated them into the realm or conquered them.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Makes sense. You gotta work with us, or you can be alone and
Well, work with us or not be here
or not
anymore.
be here anymore. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And so that unification war completed, and the realm was founded. The big winners from that were the houses. There were 6 minor, 6 major. These are not the only houses in the realm, but these are the big players. There are hundreds of what we call charterless houses, which are just small. They're very similar to the original warlords. Like they could have been those warlords who maintained their independence within the space of another house. They could have been formed after the realm was founded. There's a lot of ways that these came about, but like they're not significant political players. They don't have large enough militaries to be a problem for even a minor house, but they still retain a degree of autonomy. So they're all throughout the realm, and it's generally between 1 and 5 star systems,
That's cool.
right?
So yeah, it's almost like a workforce, right? Like you've got the district, and then you have like the little smaller offices where like,
The branch
the
office.
branch office exactly, where you can kind of do whatever you want, but you have that badge. If something happens, you go to the who are you from? What are you a part of? Yeah, you gotta go talk to the
Well, all of them exist at the whim of the larger house whose space
exactly.
they're within, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
you're right. The larger houses do use them for both experimentation and
Mm-hmm.
special. They can have little tiny wars between
Sure.
them that don't affect the larger houses.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Cool.
it's also a place where a player who may not want to be part of a larger house overtly or make their own, that's where it would be, right? You got those little
Cool.
charterless.
Yeah. You come up from the bottom and work your way up.
Hey,
You could,
you.
right?
I mean, no charterless house has made minor house status yet, but it's not
And there you go.
impossible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. All
And
right. All
so
right.
the protos um, chose to attack the realm right as it finished the Unification War, and things were starting to get stabilized. Before that stability took hold, they went ahead and they killed the first sovereign and they attempted a military coup,
What?
because that's the right time to do it, is when things are still unstable. Like, oh,
Ah,
it was previously this leader, but now it's us, but nothing else changes.
hope is right there, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden it's not.
Well, and the protos were a tough fight. Fortunately, during the Unification War, the the collective has sent out Gen 2 of the super soldier to all of the houses as a, you're going to need this to defend yourself against the aliens that we already know are there, and to build up your own forces and everything. And that was
Sure.
intended to be, I think the original model for them was they were going to maintain the protos
Okay.
and maybe make a Gen 2 of that, and then have that be their thing, and then have augments be everywhere else.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
those augments ended up having to defeat the protos
Yep.
and make sure the realm didn't collapse in on itself,
Absolutely.
and so they became the de facto standard.
Oh, cool. Okay. And that's why you see so many of them, right? Well,
Yeah,
within the game too,
yeah.
right?
And
Excellent.
I get asked a lot what why there aren't regular people in the game, and
Sure.
what I say is that they're used for like security and police actions and those sorts of things. But as soon as you start fighting the alien races, as soon as you start fighting at the level that the realm fights, regular person is not going to be able to keep up with the types of things that are happening there. An
Right.
augment soldier can survive things that a regular person would
Would not be
not,
able to. Yeah.
not at all. Yeah, not just survive, but like recover from, right?
Sure.
Because every augment soldier has a pretty high intrinsic value. It's a 4+ year investment of time and resources and
Of
energy,
course.
and you know you don't want those just being lost.
Right. And then of course the realm doesn't have like you couldn't send a non-augment in, or like a wave of non-augments similar to like the hex with the swarm, right? You wouldn't just send in people to just die to like soak up fire, right? Like that's not
No, they don't do human wave
right.
tactics.
Yeah, that's
All
not
of the augments are volunteers.
excellent. Cool.
Yeah. Um, Now, if we'd ever reached a point where they had like population wasn't kind of more limited resource,
Sure.
I mean, maybe that would change in the future. And there are people who fight as people elsewhere outside of the realm, like in Unbound space.
Oh, cool.
They're not.
Sorry. What are like what we just talked about with like the lesser, the non-named houses, right? Like,
Actually, that's something entirely separate. So the realm is the
oh,
middle 65% of the galaxy, and then the outer section is all Unbound space. It's not part of the realm.
oh, okay.
It's people who chose to flee, who
Oh,
didn't
from
want to
the
be part of
yeah, who
the
didn't want to be part of the okay.
realm, or they just colonized there originally. They weren't looped in,
Gotcha.
and that is an entirely not. It's humans, but they're not part of the realm. They're their own thing.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Yep, and
Exciting.
they're definitely having fights with just people running around
Right.
doing the stuff.
Okay. Okay.
Because
Cool.
the maintaining and creating augments is a very high energy, high technology
Yep.
uh,
Process.
resource. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they don't have that same access, especially because they were put out towards the galactic rim where the planets are less good.
Well, for more of those world rules,
Well,
high gravity, less
plus the
gravity,
closer you get to the galactic core, the more heavy materials and minerals you're going
minerals
to
and all
get,
that.
etc.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, they were put out there, and a lot of the corporations of the realm, the bigger organizations such as the Miners Union or the Trade Guild, they actually operate from Unbound Space and use their own charters with each house to operate safely, but they choose not to be part of the realm's politics or overtly part of it.
Okay.
Omnisoul's headquarters, even though they are like a staple of the house, De Argento government, they are actually headquartered in Unbound Space.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, they choose
Huh.
because it lets them have a degree of separation.
Yes.
So yeah, and
Wow.
basically they make agreements with each house, but because they are a non-realm entity, they are not bound by the edicts the same way. So that's a way around some of those protections
Yep.
for realm citizens that exist
The laws and
that they
things.
don't. Yeah, it's a totally different thing for them. So okay, and that is like the big overview of the
Of the
realm
realm. Cool. Excellent.
without drilling down into the government, which I'll talk
No.
about later, or some of those other sub pieces. But okay, it's been close to half an hour of rambling about this stuff. Actually going to answer some of these really great user questions from our Discord,
Excellent.
and then I'll give an answer. And if you have anything you want to have clarified, please let me know, Drew.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Will do.
So Corvid asks, are there any non-combat based forms of the Nightfall in Hexakota? Which is a very interesting question. So the the Nightfall use their the existing nodes that they have. There are nodes you have not seen yet, which will help make some things make sense. But they use their existing node structures for work. Um, that's but you'll see more of the nodes. You have an incomplete picture of the nodes. You've only seen half of the stuff they have.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah. So, but you'll see more of them and more of their society when they choose to make societies, which is not all the time. When they choose to do things like that, they have it. For the Hexagoda, the worker swarm is their basic worker creature. It is capable of digging through rocks, building their tunnels, maintaining their tunnels, growing their food, dragging biomass in and out of the hive, cleaning the hive, cleaning other Hexagoda, bringing spare limbs to them, doing all that work.
That
Right?
was actually a question that I had for you there. How do they work or heal? Right, they need to eat to like
Yeah.
survive. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the workers do basically everything for them
They
then.
maintain the hive. Every other creature above them has very specialized roles, but the worker is the core to how the hive functions, similar
Cool.
to an ant hive.
They look really cool also.
Oh,
Like the
thank
the
you.
miniatures. Yeah, I was like looking at them and I was like, man, if I like, are we gonna get like a big worker at
Oh,
one
a
point?
worker
Like
prime.
a worker prime. It would be fun. It'd be cool. Yeah, and I love the models. The models look great, and I'm glad that the we're getting the hierarchy of how they work.
Yeah, thank you. The Wichita asks, are the Hexagoda ship drives fully organic, or do they switch to mining their homeworld from retailers to build drives? That's actually two questions, and I can answer both. So everything on a Hexagoda craft, the large ships, is organic except for the FTL drive. The FTL drive is actually mechanical.
Oh, I want to know more about how they have that like living organic thing. Get that information from the
Yeah,
FTL drive. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. So
Okay.
that's that because you can't make a organ or gland that can create a wormhole, as it turns out. You can
Okay.
you can
Okay.
you can get around a lot,
Yep.
but that one in particular was a limiting factor.
Cool.
And then they did mine their homeworld and star system to build drives. That's where they got their early materials. Thornhide asks, how many crew are in each Batra tank? Um, and it's actually two. There's a pilot and a gunner. Um, and in terms of command, the pilot is in command.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yep.
Cool. I
And
guess that makes sense though, right?
and
Like,
for the realm tanks, it's actually three because Conscious asked, "What about the realm tanks?" It's three. There is a pilot, a gunner, and a commander.
oh, and the commander makes the choices for them
Correct.
there. Interesting.
Yep.
All right.
Um, and Conscious added an additional part. Are there people in the realm that are afraid of or oppose AI at all? So that's interesting. So there are definitely people who have some feelings about it. The military, in particular, there is a period of time during augment training where everyone's companion is turned off um, for part of that training, and that's intentional to get people to be able to operate without it. I I feel it's almost like a cultural within that organization. Um, not stopgap, but like a way to um, feel like if there was ever a problem with them, there's at least one group of people within the realm who have operated without AIs for extended period of time, so that they can maintain operational capability.
And they have that backup just in case something goes
Yeah,
wrong and they need to get rid of it.
yeah. So that yes, so that's interesting. That's the augments that do that. They do have their companions back after they complete their training and get their tactical module and are able to proceed down that road. But that is part of their institution, which is kind of interesting. Um, Wichita asks, do Hexakota coat their hive walls in resin a la aliens xenomorphs? And no, it's just rock. They don't secrete any kind of substance, or they don't have like a that purple stuff creep from StarCraft. They don't
Starcraft
do
or anything
that.
like yep, I was just
They
about
don't
to ask.
have that. No, they just build cold rock walls because they're not much for aesthetics, and because they're thermally insulating, so they lower energy expenditure. And the room that would have things in it would be like their food growing rooms, which I'll talk about in a later question. But yeah, that would have things on the walls and such, but the rest of it, meh. Conscious asks, which two factions are the most likely to ally? Um, I I feel like right now that's probably Batra and Realm. The Batra and the Unbound, because they're not at war with the Unbound, they're at war with the Realm. So basically, the Batra were very clear about that. They're not at war with humanity; they're at war with the Realm. So the Unbound and the Batra have had some limited trade, right?
Wow. Okay. I'm my jaw's on the floor as you're talking here.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, that's right. Because I'm thinking, oh, the realm owns most, right? Like
they
they're
own
the
65% of the
65% of
galaxy, but there's a
everything.
big chunk
But
of humanity that are not part of the realm.
wow,
So, yep.
cool.
I would say
Okay.
it's probably those two. The Hexagoda have not communicated overtly with anybody, and the Nightfall don't seem to respond to any radio signals or waving of the hands or screaming or anything. They don't. They don't.
Except with more shooting. That's what they.
Right.
Yeah. That's.
They seem dispassionately interested in their core directive.
I've got a question about the Nifal. Whenever you're
Yeah, go
ready.
ahead.
Sure. So my thought process was obviously there's like certain factions that are trying to make more um uh new abilities that they figure out how to do, like new coding that they can unlock, right? Um, was there any? Is there any um, type or sub faction of Nefal that the other Nefal races were like, this is too dangerous, we have to stop this?
Um.
I guess it would be more a question of infighting. Does infighting with Nefal happen?
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
maybe not needing an example of that, but like, could there be like is there I guess the reason there could be any number of reasons why they would go at each other.
So Sol Animus is the easiest one. Sol Animus thinks
Sure.
that anything that is not doing exactly what their original intent is malfunctioning and wants to destroy it.
Dang. Okay, that's it. That almost exactly answers my question. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Prime Guard attacks for a variety of reasons: to protect its own resources, to test its new tactics and new nodes that it tries out,
Sure.
and Aware Spark. If you're there when Aware Spark gets there and you pose any kind, if you're even in the way of what it's trying to do, it will just go through you,
Oh
right?
dang.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the angriest alien AI version of Indiana Jones ever.
There you go. Yeah, I was thinking Angry Marines. It's
Yeah,
like, oh.
angry Indiana Jones.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we've got Thornhide asks, has a Botcher clan ever entered into multiple Bloody Night duels at once? Um, yeah, why not? Because if a Botcher clan is large enough, those could be happening all over the place. A duel can be as small as two champions fighting it out, which is very common for smaller conflicts in the Batra. If it turns to conflict, and the Batra they enjoy conflict, they like fighting, and so like that can be at the esoteric level, that could be like a debate, like a very heated political debate. But outside of that, you can have non permanently, debilitative combat You can have combat with weapons. You can have combat to the death between two champions if you wanted to,
Interesting.
if
So,
the stakes are high enough,
huh?
right?
Okay. So it's like almost like honorable combat. Like the outcome is not to kill your opponent, although sometimes it is.
Right. Sometimes it definitely
Interesting.
is.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that could be used to, like two clutchlings who are in the same clutch. If they get in an argument with their young, they will often wrestle and fight it out to see who the winner is, right? Like the
Interesting.
last piece of cake is going to go to one of them, right?
That is insane. That's awesome. I just saw a meme, a Star Wars meme, where this character is coming in, and it was just like, mom says it's my turn with the PlayStation, right? And then they fight it out, and I was like, oh, okay, so that's
Yeah,
it can
like
be anything
like
like that.
they're
Interesting.
especially when they're young and they're very hot-blooded, their tendency is to fight it out. Is to let they want to be aggressive.
Wow. Okay.
And like they fight all the time when they're young, which is why they put like grandparent level Batra as their parents because they're super calm and super experienced.
They've been there. They've done that already.
Totally, they're hundreds of years of removed from fighting over every little thing, so it's
Sure.
fun to watch the kids.
Wow. It's fun to watch the kids fight.
Yeah, because there's no risk, right? They're just
Right.
throwing each other
Yep.
around and
So bring your weapons when you go to a Batra Thanksgiving, right? Like get the family together.
bring those fists.
Yep. Yep. Wow. That's awesome.
It's like that meme joke, like, what did you bring to Thanksgiving table? I brought beef, and
Yep.
they like throw the fist.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a great meme. Wichita asks, what is the maximum life expectancy of an augment soldier? So augment soldier is obviously a pretty dangerous job. I will say the average life expectancy of a realm citizen is around 100 to 120 years right now. The length of time has not extended. The quality of life has improved. So with the everything has moved up 15 years, right? So like if you're
Okay.
50, you can still have the body and capabilities and everything of like roughly a 35-year-old.
Cool. Like me.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. I have the reverse problem where
Oh
it's
no.
like
Well,
or super old.
that's my next question. Do any augments ever retire? Do they
Oh
get
yeah.
old enough to retire?
Oh
Do they
yeah.
survive enough to
Yeah, so
retire?
you as an augment soldier, you're limited to 3 tours, which is 30 years.
Oh wow.
If
Okay.
you are not an officer or moved up in the organization, etc., you're basically out. The average length for an augment soldier is 2 tours. So they'll do 25 years of service and they're done. And
Wow.
then what happens after that is because some of the cybernetic things can't be removed, they take out the ones that can be. The genetic changes are maintained, and you just live your life.
That's awesome. So you
Yeah,
can have like you get the guy with you can work machinery, right? Or like oh yeah,
yeah.
that's cool.
There is
Okay.
an interesting rule though. After you join the augment services, you cannot serve in realm government.
Interesting.
You can be in house government, but you
Okay.
can't be in realm government.
And I'm sure there's a reason for that. What
Yeah,
what
they're
is the
called the
reason for
protos.
it? Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
Okay.
they basically you give up your rights for a realm, and the only place that impacts is means you'll never have an augment soldier senator,
Cool.
right?
Okay.
Because an augment soldier would never be braided. Braided are prevented from getting the kinds of genetic treatments and such, and no house would ever risk a braided by putting it into the field of battle. They're too precious. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Conscious asks, he must have been hungry. He says, "Are Hexakota edible?"
Oh yeah. Could you eat them?
No.
Like.
So they are ethyl chain chemistry based. So basically, they would be like drinking a quart of motor oil.
Oh my gosh. They're more energy or
Yeah.
a source of
Yeah.
fuel rather than actual
They would
food
burn
fuel.
really well,
Okay.
which is why one of their weapons is flaming, right?
Oh, that makes
Because if you
okay.
crack
Yeah.
through the chitin, their blood is flammable, which is why they use that on each other.
Got it. Interesting. That's
Yep.
super cool. Okay.
Yep. That is so no to answer your question.
So they just throw it into the engines then after they kill them all.
You could start a campfire and throw one on there. You actually
It's like
totally could.
a 6-week campfire.
It just burns. And then Wichita asks, "Can Hexakota drink the dead Nightfall goo?" Um, that's so I want to clarify this. I think this will help. The Nightfall don't turn into like a puddle of liquid when they're destroyed. Their shells are maintained. They stay. All of the machinery within them liquefies.
Whoa. I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah. As soon as they basically die or are rendered no longer able to function, all of those advanced electronics and machinery pieces all liquefy into basically into the shell. There's another question here that's kind of related to that, but the Hexagoda don't care about heavy minerals and materials outside of making drives, so no, they would not. They would not do that.
They leave them behind.
Yeah, and that's why you end up with these Hexagoda like empty shells, right? But you can actually take those shells, take the pieces, and they are refined materials. You could melt them down; it would be useful. You just won't get any data or electronics from it.
Excellent. You use them as armor basically, and that's about it.
I mean, you can use them for
Maybe.
anything. Like if you
Yeah.
melt them down, you get and separate out
Oh,
the
this
elements.
stuff.
You
Yeah.
get a lot of interesting, highly refined material.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
that has some
Okay.
value. And then Wichita said, "Have the Batra ever been observed to snack on the Hex? By the same metric, no. The Batra and human physiology, in terms of what they could consume, is actually reasonably compatible. It's like in the
Very
80th
similar.
80th percentile compatibility.
Wow. Okay.
Um, so no, for the same reasons we can't eat them, they can't eat them. Um, and then following this bizarre snacking questioning, have they ever been observed to eat human meat for that
Oh.
matter? In referring to the Batra, but I'll actually answer it for both. Um, the Batra 100% could eat a person. I suppose in a wild fit, they could like take a bite out of something, right?
If they're maskless, right? Like,
Yeah,
oh,
sure.
do they
Yeah,
have
just
teeth?
well, they have a frog mouth, so they can like
Like,
crunch down
oh, I see. Okay.
like a frog
Like
sort
a
of like
frog really does.
smashes its food, and
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
has a really powerful bite. So, yeah,
Interesting.
maybe. I
Hmm.
haven't really. I'll be honest. I hadn't really thought about the cannibalistic aspects of it.
Right. Well,
Um,
you look at the artwork, right, with the Batra and the Augment on the front, and it's like, I mean, maybe you got the Batra got to take a finger off, right? Like,
oh man,
yeah, you'd have to really cut up the body in order for them to get it to a point where they could actually like eat it or cook it, right? Like,
yeah, and the Hex don't eat people either. Um, what they do with the bodies is they do chop them up, they cut them up, and they will drag them to their biomass piles where they can turn them into food. But raw human, no, is not very
raw
compatible with them.
materials not compatible with them. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Amaru asked my favorite question of January, which was, "What is life like for non-military citizens of the realm?"
You already kind of went through that
A little
earlier, a little
bit,
bit. Yeah.
yeah. Like I break it down into one of three categories. I break it down into frontier, and then I break it down to developed, and then I break it down into core worlds.
Oh,
So,
okay.
frontier life is exactly what it sounds like. It's pretty hard scrabble life compared to the rest of the realm, but I like to clarify with people that yeah, it's a tough life, but like it's not Oregon Trail, right? These
Oh,
people
okay.
didn't like
That's
do an overland journey and like die of diphtheria along the way. Like it's
yep, yep.
it's a hard life with Wi-Fi,
I was just
right?
thinking, who died of dysentery. I was literally, as I'm looking at you while we're doing this, I'm seeing the Oregon Trail. Right, you are dead. I'm glad it's not like that. At
No,
least you can go on the internet and talk about how you're dying, right?
right.
Like,
It's frontier life with Wi-Fi.
cool.
They have very advanced machinery, computers, technology. So like the difficulty is the work. It's building the infrastructure. It's making the decisions about how to run the place and making the right moves and thinking about what you want that world to be. but it's not like, and there are plagues, there are food shortages, there are things that do happen.
Sicknesses.
Yeah, of course. Like every colony has problems.
Right.
Now add alien worlds to it.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Alien coronavirus.
Yeah, sure, exactly.
Oh no.
Oh, we haven't even gotten there yet.
I'm not signing up for that, please, if we can skip the alien. So no, none of that stuff. But it's a hard life, but it had with the caveat that you have that, technological aspect. As you can become a developed world, let's say colony world's 100, 200 years in, it's, some of its, larger cities have been established. It has, it knows what it needs to bring in off world or wants to bring in off world if it's completely self-sustaining.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they have their, their trade is pretty good. One of the things that has to occur with all colony worlds is once you're fully established, you get the realm comes in and performs this big audit, right?
Okay.
Of the entire planet, effectively.
Okay. Huh.
And it's twofold. One is to determine what they can tax you for. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Because
yeah,
you do have to pay. It's called the beggar's due. You do have to pay it once you're out of that frontier phase. And the second part is you get designated a golden world, which is an official designation. It's like that means this world is, fully claimed and protected by the realm. It is reached a certain level of development as to be recognized as that. And when they do that, they go ahead and they build the perimeter station around the star system's edge, which brings in a lot of the outside world more easily to that place.
And I'm sure you get added onto maps and stuff.
Like you've already been
yeah.
part of the map, but like
right.
you get the the ships that are basically just blink drives to open up drives for people to come in.
Right.
The Messengers Guild makes regular stops there. You're sort of
Yep.
the real life Messengers
the
Guild.
USPS. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
cool.
real life messenger. You have your Messengers Guild coming in. You get a permanent contingent of realm soldiers out in the perimeter.
Protection, right?
I mean,
Ish.
also intelligence gathering and watching,
sure. Yep.
right?
Yep,
It's
absolutely.
twofold.
Yep. If there's something out there, major, right?
Because the perimeter station is realm property.
Oh yeah. That makes sense. They come in and they build it, right? So they're,
Yep. But it is a big deal because then you're part of the loop. Your people are going to be coming in more often. You have more easy access in and out. Like
it's a lot of work, right? A lot of money coming through.
It's a lot of work, and they also want to make sure that they get those resources that they're extracting from that world out of there, right? That helps aid them in that.
Yeah.
So, and then we have Walter who asked, oh, actually, one more thing. You have the core worlds, which are the most developed worlds. They've been around for hundreds of years for the most part. They're very well developed in comparison to, let's say a frontier. And life there is very interconnected. Core world citizens, technically they're still realm citizens like everyone else, but they do see themselves, in aggregate, they see themselves as above everyone who's not in the core
They walk
worlds.
Around with their pinky fingers up to their mouth.
It's pinkies out, teacups up.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Because
that's where the most interconnectivity, the travel distances are shorter between their places.
Yeah.
They get more communications much faster.
Oh, higher speed internet.
Well, because there's no faster than light communication in the realm, everything has to travel by messenger ship, so the distance between points matters.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So they just get they'll get the new show shows up there sooner than it'll show up elsewhere. Right, as an example. And because most things are dragging towards the center in terms of like where resources are going, they get a huge collection from all the outer places in one place. Whereas, like, if you live on the opposite end of realm space, it's much harder to get something.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. You have fewer ships coming through.
So you have tons of culture, tons of resources coming in, and you get things sooner. You're going to feel like... And you're closer to the center. Physically closer to the center of government. Right? To the center of the galaxy.
Yeah.
Like, feels big.
I was going to say, not only that, it's all like it's the place to be, right?
Yeah.
The core worlds. It
well,
really
they would
is.
say it is.
They would. Yeah, they would.
They would definitely say it is.
Mm-hmm.
Walter asks, has a Batra clan joined forces with a non-Batra race to attack another clan? Is this taboo or within the clan system?
Oh, that's interesting. That's an interesting question.
Yeah, I would say probably no, because the only way to do that would be um, with the Unbound. I will say it is entirely possible that they have worked together maybe against something else, like the Nightfall, which would be a mutual enemy. The Batra's classic enemy is the Nightfall. So, and let me look. Okay, and I think we're good on questions. I'm going to finish that up with Walter, and we'll do more the next episode. Did you have any questions for me, Drew?
No, other than the fall, I like the idea. I think it's, and I guess it makes sense from a standpoint too of like, would two factions jump on another one, right? Like, you
Yeah,
know, the realm and the Batra are fighting each other on a world, right? And then all of a sudden
yeah,
the Hex show up, and it's like,
right.
okay, well, if one of us loses, then you know the Hex are gonna kill us off, so we gotta fight them. So
Or well, also the Hex are going to terraform the world and make it unusable
yes,
by everybody. So
exactly. So pretty easy answer, easy question there.
yeah,
Cool.
you totally you might have a scenario where that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
It would make for a cool narrative battle that if you posted about it, I would definitely be interested to
Yeah.
hear.
Oh, actually, that was another question I did have. So you did the narrative campaign, right, or the narrative thing in
We
LVO.
did.
Have you ever thought about or discussed the idea of narrative campaigns driving the story
Hmm.
instead of from you yourself?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's come up as part of it. If we come up with what's called an inflection point that makes sense, where the players could help drive that inflection point, I would 100% do that.
Sure. Cool. Exciting.
Yeah. There actually is kind of an interesting inflection point that could happen for that. So yeah, absolutely, that's been asked before. The other thing that got asked in the same vein was, are there any plans for a system which would allow you to use a call to arms and OR in like a
Oh,
campaign
yeah, like
sense?
one after the other sort of thing.
100%.
Wow. Ooh.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. I can't wait for stuff. I can't wait to hear more about that. About it. Yeah.
All
So,
right. Well, thank you so much, Drew, for coming in for this episode. Again, this is the Outward Realms podcast. We'll be doing this every 2 weeks. I'm Michael,
I'm Drew.
and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.